Okay, so the next what we see is now VLookup. Okay, so what is VLookup now? It is a function, it is an Excel function that searches for a particular value and returns a corresponding match based on a unique identifier. A unique identifier is uniquely associated with all the records of the database. For instance, employee ID, student roll number, customer contact number, seller email address, etc. are unique identifiers. Now, uh, before I start explaining this, understand VLookup is the most hyped function of Excel, and in any interview you go, mostly they ask us any case statement based on VLookup. Okay, so VLookup is kind of important to for us to understand. Okay, now what is VLookup? So it will basically, you want to search for a value in a very big list, and you want some of its corresponding values to be returned. Okay, so for example, I have a very big list and I have a seller's ID. Okay, I have some 10 sellers ID and I have a very big list, another list of maybe 1,000 sellers ID. I want to find if the 10 sellers which I have the small list, are they present in my 1,000 seller list or not? This 10 sellers, maybe these are the sellers which were banned from selling in the market, and I want to see is my marketplace which I have opened recently, are these sellers present in my seller list or not? Okay, if they are present, I would need to remove them. So I can search for those sellers, okay, in my seller list. See, the easy way out for this in Excel is to do a control F, by which we can find out if that seller exists or not. But when you have many sellers to search for, maybe some 100 sellers out of 1,000, doing control F for each of them and finding if they're present or not doesn't make sense. Okay, so what we do in that case is we use VLookup. Okay, so we need to have a unique identifier like a seller ID or something, or seller number, to search if the seller exists or not. Okay, that is the unique identifier we're talking here. Okay, the function accepts four arguments: lookup value, table array, column index number, and range lookup. The first three are mandatory, while the fourth is the optional. Okay, so the first one is the lookup value. So what is the lookup value? It is a required value which is important. You can't remove it. It represents the value that we want to look up for in the first column or of a table or data set. Then we have the table array, which is where we want to search. So it represents the data set or data array that is to be searched. Okay, third is the column index number. This is, so for example, if you want to, if you search for a seller ID, and if you want to search for its number, so whichever column the number is stored, you give its index. Okay, we will see when we do it in live, like how do we put column index. And range lookup is, you give either true or false. True means there is an approximate match, false means exact match. Okay, so if you see the definition, it says optional, represents or defines what the function should return in case it does not find an exact match to the lookup value. This argument can be set to false or true, where true indicates an approximate match, that is the closest match between the lookup value in case the exact match is not found, and false, indicating an exact match, that is, it returns an error in case the exact match is not found. The true can be substituted for 1 and false for 0. So instead of writing false, you can write 0 as well. Okay, generally in 95 to 96% or 99% cases also, you don't use, or you don't get any scenario where you have to use true, okay, or 1. Generally we always want an exact match, right? So we'll always go with 0. Okay, so this is my VLookup function. So this is the bigger data set, okay, and this is the smaller data set. Now I am trying to find my ID, okay, it is 427, I have it here, and I want to search my email ID. Now, like I told you, it's because it's a small list, you don't even need to use a control F, okay, you can just directly get this data 427. You can see you get 427 is here, the email ID is gagan@yahoo.com, and you can put it here. But what if this ID is, this list is very big and this is super big? So in that case, either you do control F, but if this is small, then still control F works. But ideally, the best thing is you should always use VLookup. Remember, whenever you're doing a VLookup, your data should be sorted in either ascending or descending as per your case on the lookup value. So for example, you are searching for ID, right? So in this table, your data should ideally be sorted. So let's sort the data here first. Okay. Okay. So now let's see this. Now let's do this. Is equal to VLookup. First, it's a lookup value. Lookup value means what we are searching. So we are searching for this ID. So we click here, comma, then the table array. Now table array is where we search for the value. So I search this value in this table. Also remember, my table array, my selection will start from the column where my ID is present. Now, for example, if my employee ID was present in this column, right, and name was here, then I would have started my search from here. Okay, but because it is in this first column, which is B, I started from here. Okay, I select the enter dataset. Okay, comma. Then column index number. Now, what does this mean? So G5, this is in my first column. Okay, obviously my whatever I search in VLookup, it is important that it should be present here. Okay, so I search this value in this. Now if this is the first column in my data set, so I have created a data set of B4 to E10, right? From B4 to E10, this is my data set. Now if the value is present in the first column of my data set, then in which column is my email present? So if this is the first column, then name is my second column, right? And then email is my third column. Okay, email is my third column. So because I want email here, I put 3, comma, and false. I need to put false. Bracket close and enter. Okay, now like I told you that the reference changes when we drag the formula. So I'll just drag it down. Okay, so Gagan, 427 Gagan, let's check this. 427 and Gagan, yeah, correct. 127 Arundina, 127, where it is, sorry, 175, it's Arundina, right. 169 is not present, correct. 226, it is present, Sahana, but it is not coming, not available. NA means not available. So basically the value which you are searching is not available. 878 is again correct, so it is available. Then what happened to 226? Why it is showing us not available error? Okay, so if I click on a formula and if I press F2, so for some of us it will be F2, for some of us it will be function F2, Fn F2. Okay, so when I press F2, I can see which part of my functions I selected from where. So if you see with the help of color codes, G5 is this, B4 to E10 is this, the red color, and G5 is this blue color, Selexia, which looks good as per my needs. Now let's go to the second function. Okay, let's see F2. I select G6, which is fine, it should come down. Next we have B5 to E11, which is B5 to E11. It went down because we dragged it, right? So even the data set range also went one step down. which should not be the case, right? It should still be this dataset range is fixed. I have to search from this dataset, and only this ID should change. So what to do in such cases? Okay, so in such cases, you have to fix your cell. Okay, you fix your dataset. Now see, G5 will change. We should not do anything because when we dragged it down, it should change. But B4 and E10 should not change. So you have to press either F and F4, okay, or you press F4. Okay, it is either of the two for all our systems. Okay, so when we press F4 or F and F4, F and F4 means function key and F4 key together. So my column, my cells get fixed. So it is now $B $4 and $E $10. So basically I add dollar in front of my row and column, which means when I drag my B4 to E10, this part will be fixed. Okay, there will be no change in this. Okay, there will be no change in this. Now let's do this and drag it. So now you see, I get Sahana now. So if I press F2 here, what I see is B4 to E10, it's still showing me the same data set. That means that's why I got 226 here and I got its mail ID here. Okay. Now one quick thing in VLookup, I hope till now you have understood here. So one quick thing in VLookup, if I have a duplicating value, not this, let me just put it here. So and the name is now Raj. Okay, and maybe the email ID is Raj here. Okay. So for 167, if you see, okay, it's 167, right? Let's change this to 226 only, maybe. So 226, I have two now, Sahana and Raj. Okay, but you see here we are getting Sahana. Why? Because VLookup searches it vertically, okay, one after the other. So because it got 226 here, it stopped its searching and gave it Sahana. So it Sahana. It will not give any error though, but it will always return the first value it encounters for the value it's being searched for. Okay. Okay, I hope this is clear, and this is nothing but the same thing where we can find the age. Okay, again for the age, what are we doing? We are using this G4 value in D4 to E10. Why? Because here I had ID with me, not the email and name. So I have ID, and ID is in the third column. So what I did is I used the value of G4 in D4 to E10, and then I get the second because this is the first column in my data set. If you see here, this is the first column in my data set, and age is the second column. So I put second. Okay. I hope this is VLookup is clear now. So now going back, okay, there is this function where we have three functions together. Okay, so we have if is blank and VLookup. Now what we are doing, let's see. Okay, one quick tip here, whenever you are having such multiple functions, which one function inside the other, we should first see how the functions is aligned from the start, and then evaluate it from the innermost. So first we have if. In if, first condition we have is blank, and in is blank first condition we have a VLookup. Okay, so what are we searching is in VLookup, we are searching if this item is present. Okay, if this item is present, okay, just hold on. If this item is present in my item list or not. If this item is present, then return me the SKU code. Okay, if this item is present in this data set, it should meet the second value, which is the SKU code, right? Because A2 to B11 items are in the A, which is the first, then SKU code will be my second. So if a value is returned by this, That means is blank will evaluate to false, right? Now, if is blank evaluates to false, for the if condition, it will go to the third argument, which executes only when if blank is false. And when if blank is false, it will do a VLookup, again the same VLookup, and it will get the SKU code, same way how we did here. So there are two uses of VLookup here, okay? First, here VLookup was used to check if this item is present or not. That's it. If the item's SKU code mainly is present or not. If the item's SKU code is present, then then is blank is false, and then it goes into the third part of if, right? But in case this VLookup evaluates to NA, which means there is no value which is coming up for VLookup. That means if there is no value coming, that means is blank is true. That is, there is no value for this VLookup. And if is blank is true, that means for if the first condition, the condition evaluates true, and if the condition evaluates to true, we get assign SKU code. Okay, so if that means if the cell is blank, we get assign SKU code. Okay, this might be a bit overwhelming for you. What I would suggest here is you stop the video here, see the formula, understand it, and then maybe copy the data which you have here, you type it out and see how it works. Okay, you try out many combinations with it and see if the combinations works or not. Okay, you try out with it. Okay, so this is about the is blank condition. Okay. Next, a quick thing we will see here also for if and VLookup. So we have an inventory and number of item. Okay. So if the number of item returns to 0, we should show item available. Okay. And if it comes to it's not 0, then we will say item not available. Okay. So what we did in this case, let's check that out. Okay. So we wrote, okay, this functions I'm not writing, I'm just showing it because you have already understood what VLookup is. Okay, these are the advanced parts, so I am showing it to you directly. So first what we see is VLookup. Okay, we get the value. That is the most important thing. We have to see if this condition, if this cell is having some value or it is 0. So what are we doing? We are taking the value from here and we are matching it in our data set. So I take E2, which is keyboard. I say keyboard, okay. And what I want the second value. So if keyboard is the first value, then the second value is 15. So my this value evaluates to 15. Is 15 is equal to 0? No, right? So now because the 15 is equal to 0 is false, I go to the third argument of if, which says item available, because 15 is present, right? There are 15 keyboards still present. Hence we say item available. But now let's take the example of bag maybe. So bag shows item not available, right? So how did this happen? So again, let's start from the innermost function, which is VLookup. I check for this value in my data, which is A2 to B11. Okay, so from E2 to B11, from A2 to B11, I search for bag, which is here. I get the second value, so I get the second column number, which is 0, and I equate it to 0. Is this true? Is this 0 is equal to 0? True, right? Because this is 0. So it goes to the second part of the if condition, which says item not available, right? So because this item is not available, because it's 0, so item is not available, and that is what is being printed here. Now this form which I'm showing you is kind of a dynamic form. So whatever I select, based on that it comes. It is very easy. We are just using VLookup and if condition, and based on that, the value changes here. Okay, and how do we create this list? I'll show you in the upcoming sometime. Okay, I'll show you in some time how do we create this drop down. Okay,